If you can play Chopin's Nocturne in C minor, I'll marry you on the spot. Harper Quinn didn't take her eyes off the phone screen as she delivered that icy challenge. The click of her heels echoed through the grand marble lobby of Lyra Records, each step sounding sharp and deliberate. The silence was so deep that the distant hum of the floor polisher sounded like a slow, steady breath. Marcus Reed, a muscular black man nearing 40, was kneeling as he meticulously wiped every crease and curve of the grand piano at the center of the hall. Light from the ornate fixtures danced across the piano's polished ebony surface, giving it an almost sacred presence rather than mere office decor. Marcus handled it with the care of someone tending a priceless heirloom, each movement imbued with tenderness, precision, and reverence. At last, Harper looked up, her gaze sweeping over the janitor with casual indifference, edged by a mocking smirk. She frowned slightly when Marcus remained silent. Frustration, tinged with curiosity, propelled her to speak again, her tone colder this time, as if taunting. "Didn't you hear me?" Only then did Marcus slowly rise and turn to face her. His deep brown eyes met hers, showing a flicker of surprise but no fear. In those eyes lay something that stole Harper's breath, an ancient sorrow underpinned by absolute calm, as if he'd faced such challenges countless times before. "I heard you," he answered softly, his voice warm yet powerful, resonating through the empty lobby. "But that's not a piece you play on a dare." Harper arched an eyebrow, intrigued. She had never pictured a janitor knowing anything about classical music, much less responding with such poise. "So, you do know it," she said, curiosity lacing her voice. Marcus said nothing more. He returned to his work, folding the polishing cloth with slow, deliberate care, each crease reflecting his meticulous, reserved nature. Harper watched him for a moment longer, attempting to read his thoughts and gestures, but it was impossible. She couldn't fathom what he was thinking or why she'd issued such a reckless challenge. Perhaps the midnight stillness of the lobby had driven her to break the silence, or maybe it was his steady gaze that unsettled her. "I guess you know nothing after all," she muttered under her breath, turning on her heel and striding toward the elevator. Marcus remained where he was, quietly watching her retreating figure. Once the doors closed, Harper relaxed the tension in her shoulders for the first time in months. As the elevator descended, her mind refused to focus on work. His intense eyes haunted her, filling her with an uneasy restlessness. Alone in the vast hall, Marcus resumed his task. When the last fingerprint was wiped from the piano's surface, he quietly sat on the small stool beside it. His large hands hovered over the ivory keys, but he did not press them. His eyes closed as though long dormant memories were flooding back. It had been too long since Marcus had touched these keys as a musician. He had chosen to abandon his musical dreams and live in obscurity, dedicating himself to the one thing he loved most, his young daughter, who battled a life-threatening illness and for whom he would sacrifice everything. Marcus slowly opened his eyes, exhaled a soft sigh, and returned to his duties as if nothing had happened. Yet deep in his heart, Harper's careless words had awoken a powerful emotion he believed had been buried long ago. Back in her corner office on the top floor, Harper leaned against the window, gazing down at the city lights, her thoughts utterly adrift. She recalled how Marcus had looked at the piano, not as a piece of furniture to clean, but as a cherished memory he yearned to preserve. She had never felt so curious or unsettled by a stranger. She couldn't understand why she'd flung that wild challenge, nor why his composed, mysterious presence kept echoing in her mind. His cool demeanor and profound words didn't fit her image of a janitor. "Who are you, really, Marcus Reed?" Harper whispered to herself, astonished to find his name repeating like a haunting melody. She had no idea that her offhand dare had set in motion a destined tale neither she nor Marcus could foresee. The first, poignant notes of their shared love story had officially begun. Many days had passed since that strange challenge Harper made, yet Marcus Reed remained as mysteriously silent as ever, as if nothing had happened. But to Harper, the grand piano in the lobby now held an entirely different meaning. Every time she walked by, her gaze unconsciously searched for Marcus's figure, diligently polishing and caring for the instrument as if it were a priceless treasure. Those small, meticulous gestures left Harper with an unexplainable unease. She felt as though she'd stepped into a story whose role she still didn't understand. Meanwhile, Marcus continued his nightly routine without so much as a hint that he cared about the powerful woman's curiosity. To him, silence was the best way to guard the deep secret he'd spent years burying. One late night, when the entire building lay in near-perfect stillness, Marcus paused once more beside the piano. He gently wiped away the tiniest specks of dust from its surface. For a moment, a faint but vivid light flashed in his eyes, the light of a true artist beholding a long-lost kindred spirit. Marcus slowly lowered himself onto the small bench, his large hand hovering over the black and white keys without pressing a single note. He sat like that in endless silence, as if sinking into a distant past. In his mind's eye, the brilliant glow of a theater stage, thunderous applause, and the gentle smile of his late wife all sprang into sharp focus. Back then, Marcus Reed had been a shining star in the world of classical music, winner of prestigious awards, and hailed as a rare piano prodigy. His life had been filled with the glow of fame, a flourishing career, and boundless love. But fate was cruel, and would not allow him long to savor such joy. On that fateful night, in the midst of his most important tour yet, Marcus's wife, Julia, was diagnosed with terminal cancer. His brilliant life turned in an instant into a merciless nightmare, forcing him to make a heartbreaking choice: pursue his fame, or forsake it all to care for the woman he loved and their newborn daughter. Marcus chose family. He vanished from the spotlight to the astonishment of the music world, leaving behind the career so many dreamed of, becoming instead a devoted husband and father. Yet despite his sacrifice, he could not save Julia from the cruel disease that slowly claimed her life. On the final night before she passed, Julia gripped Marcus's hand, her eyes dim but filled with love and hope. "You have to promise me, Marcus," she whispered weakly. "Don't let the music die with me. Play for me, for Luna, and for yourself." But Marcus never fulfilled that promise. After Julia's death, music became too painful a memory for him to bear. He chose to retreat from the stage, living in quiet obscurity as a janitor to bury the wounds etched deep in his soul. Marcus withdrew his hand from the keys, his eyes sorrowful like an unfinished melody. At that moment, soft footsteps behind him brought him back to the present. He looked up, startled to see Harper Quinn standing there. Harper watched Marcus in silence, her sharp eyes brimming with curiosity, as if she'd witnessed every flicker of pain on his face. Marcus tried to hide his feelings behind a cold expression, but it was too late. Harper had glimpsed a secret corner of his heart. "Who were you, Marcus?" she asked gently, her usual chill replaced by a rare tenderness. "You're not just a janitor, are you?" Marcus remained silent for a long moment, then sighed. "We all have a past, Miss Quinn. Not every past is worth resurrecting." "I just want to understand you better," Harper said, her gaze probing for something deeper. "For what purpose?" Marcus replied, his voice weary but resolute. "The truth doesn't always make things easier." "I'm used to unpleasant truths," Harper answered. determination in her eyes. "I run a music empire, Marcus. I know you once stood at the pinnacle of your career. So, why give it all up to live like this?" Marcus studied her intently, then rose and quietly gathered his cleaning tools, ready to leave. "There are things more valuable than spotlights and applause," he finally said before turning and walking away. "I chose family over fame, and I've never regretted it." Harper stood motionless, watching his silhouette fade into the darkness, her feelings of loss and curiosity growing ever stronger. Marcus's cryptic words echoed in her mind like a haunting refrain, fueling her resolve to uncover the whole truth about this remarkable man. As the elevator doors closed behind Marcus, Harper approached the piano. Her fingers traced the keys lightly as she wondered, could Marcus ever return to music, or would he forever guard his secret beneath layers of dust and time? Even Harper didn't know the answer. But she was certain of one thing. Marcus Reed was no longer just an anonymous janitor. He had become an irresistible mystery that Harper Quinn couldn't easily let go of. In the days following that haunting conversation, Harper Quinn couldn't stop thinking about the secret hidden behind Marcus Reed's solemn eyes. Every time she passed the grand piano in Lyra Records' lobby, it reminded her of the unanswered curiosity and the restless, inexplicable flutter in her chest. But before long, Harper was forced to set aside her personal thoughts when an unexpected crisis pulled her into the biggest challenge since she took the reins of the company. Just hours before Lyra Records' annual charity gala was set to begin, Jennifer Allen, Harper's trusted assistant, burst into her office, face pale with worry. "Harper, we have a major problem." Jennifer's voice trembled with stress. Harper looked up from the stack of papers on her desk, frowning. "What is it?" "Our guest pianist, Lucas Evans, was in a car accident. He's in the hospital and definitely can't perform tonight." Harper froze as anxiety surged through her. This gala was critical, not only for its VIP investors, but because Lyra Records' reputation as the leader in classical music hinged on tonight's performance. She closed her eyes to steady herself. "Jennifer, is there anyone else who could step in for Lucas at the last minute?" Jennifer hesitated, then shook her head. "I'm afraid not. Lucas is our top pianist. There isn't time to bring someone else in. If we cancel, the fallout will be severe." Harper stood and walked to her office window, staring into the distance. A memory flashed through her mind. She'd been a pretty good pianist as a child, until her father's strict ban. The last time she'd played was at 12, just before he warned, "Don't touch the piano again unless you can play it perfectly." She inhaled deeply, turned back to Jennifer and said with quiet resolve, "I'll replace Lucas." Jennifer's eyes widened. "Harper, are you sure? You haven't played in years, and this is a huge event." "I'm sure," Harper cut in. "We have no other choice." A few hours later, Harper walked onto the grand stage in a deep navy evening gown. The bright spotlights formed an overwhelming halo around her. Her hands trembled. She could hear her heart pounding in her chest. She sat at the grand piano center stage, fighting to calm herself as hundreds of expectant eyes watched. But as the first notes rang out, she realized she had made a grave mistake. Her fingers were stiff, her long, unused technique yielding awkward off-key notes. The hush of the formal audience gave way to uneasy murmurs. The more she tried, the more she panicked. Mistaken chords tumbled over one another in chaotic disarray. In the front row, Richard Quinn, chairman of the board, glared at his niece with anger and disappointment. Beside him, Margot Lynn smiled coldly, as if delighted to see Harper prove unworthy of her CEO position. Humiliated, Harper abandoned the piece halfway, rose stiffly and offered a curt bow. She fled the stage as the audience erupted into scattered, mocking applause. Standing in the shadows at the back of the hall, Marcus Reed watched Harper's painful moment. His eyes showed deep sympathy, but he could only stand silently. He knew that crushing sense of failure. He had felt it many times under the glare of a stage. But this time, the suffering belonged to Harper Quinn, the powerful woman who once dared him. Harper ran off stage, her eyes red, into the backstage lounge. She gasped for air, as if awakening from a nightmare. Staring into the mirror, she was filled with shame and self-loathing. Minutes later, the door opened and Richard Quinn entered, his voice cold and furious. "Harper, you've made a laughingstock of this entire company. Do you know what you've done?" Harper forced herself calm, her voice trembling. "I'm sorry, I didn't think?" "You never think ahead," Richard snapped. "Margot was right. You're an amateur, arrogant and careless. If you don't fix this mess immediately, the board will lose patience with you." He turned and strode out, leaving Harper to slump into a chair, crushed by pressure and disappointment. In the doorway's shadow, Margot watched with a triumphant, icy smile. This was the moment she'd been waiting for to remove Harper from the CEO's chair and seize power. She knew Harper's deeper the wound, the easier she'd be to defeat, and she intended to exploit this failure completely. Meanwhile, Marcus stood quietly in the dark corner, watching Harper's retreat with a troubled heart. He realized he was being drawn into the cutthroat power struggle he had once sworn to avoid forever. But in that moment, Marcus knew one thing for certain: he could no longer remain an outsider. His gaze drifted to the piano on stage, still echoing with the aftermath of a failed performance, reminding him that his past and Harper Quinn's future were now intertwined in ways neither had ever imagined. Harper sat motionless in the corner of the backstage lounge, drowned in shame and disappointment, as the noise from the auditorium outside fell silent, leaving a suffocating stillness. She wiped the hot tears from her cheeks, then slowly rose, determined to leave the place where her most painful failure had just unfolded. As she walked down the dimly lit backstage corridor, Harper suddenly heard a sound drifting from afar, gentle and lyrical, as if soothing someone in the silence. She froze, eyes widening in astonishment. It was the melody she had just mangled, Chopin's Nocturne in C minor, but now it was being played flawlessly, heartbreakingly beautiful, with a subtlety and depth of feeling she had never heard before. Harper crept closer, her heart pounding as if afraid to shatter that fragile moment. Peering through a crack in the door, she saw Marcus Reed seated at a small piano tucked into the wings. The faint glow of an old lamp illuminated his strong, expressive features. His fingers glided over the keys effortlessly and fluidly, as though piano and player had been one for years. His eyes were closed, completely immersed in each note, each phrase a tender confession of sorrow and solace. Harper stood transfixed by Marcus's extraordinary talent and emotional intensity. In that instant, all her doubts and curiosities crystallized. This man could not be merely a janitor. The professionalism and artistry in his playing revealed a hidden past, a brilliant career he had fought so hard to bury. When the final resonant chords faded, Marcus opened his eyes and gazed quietly at the keys. Harper could hold back no longer. She stepped forward, the slight noise drawing his attention. He looked surprised, but quickly regained his composure. "Miss Quinn, you play amazing," Harper whispered, her voice still trembling. "The piece I just butchered, you performed it perfectly." Marcus met her gaze with gentle hesitation. "I only wanted to see how the music could live. I didn't mean to intrude." "You didn't intrude," Harper replied, more firmly now. Actually, I've never heard Chopin's Nocturne played so beautifully. How can you—" Marcus paused a moment, then spoke softly. "You missed it because you never truly felt the music. Technique matters, but what's most important is letting your heart flow through every note. This nocturne is about loss, hope, and deep sorrow. You were too focused on pleasing everyone else to listen to your own heart." Harper fell silent, watching him intently. His words seemed to touch wounds she'd buried long ago. "You also overlooked the silence between the notes," Marcos continued gently. "Those pauses are where the soul of the music emerges. They must be embraced, not feared. Maybe you're used to controlling everything, but music can't be forced. It must breathe." Harper felt as though he saw right through her. She nodded and whispered, "Thank you, Marcus." He was quiet for a long moment, then rose slowly. "Just the insight of someone who's failed on stages more times than I can count." Marcus began to walk away, but Harper refused to let him slip off again. "Marcus," she called, making him stop. "Please, why hide such talent? Why choose to be an anonymous janitor?" He turned back, his eyes heavy with sadness. "Not every gift deserves to be on display, Miss Quinn. Sometimes it's a reminder of what we've lost." With that, Marcus left in silence, and Harper stood there, more confused and curious than ever. She realized that he had lived another life, one of glory and acclaim, but also of profound pain and loss. Harper lingered by the piano, resolved to uncover Marcus Reed's story. She knew it might lead her into dangerous territory, but the fierce curiosity and emotion he had awakened in her wouldn't let her stop. She vowed to delve into his past, convinced that understanding Marcus's hidden history might unlock her own wounds, revealing that beneath her strength and power, she too was deeply vulnerable. The weight of Marcus's words that night echoed in Harper's mind for days on end. Unable to shake her fierce curiosity, she resolved to uncover the true past of that silent, inscrutable man. For the next week, Harper scoured every file she could find on Marcus Reed, only to uncover a run-of-the-mill employment record, as if he'd never existed in the music world. That strange absence fueled her determination even more. Finally, through an old friend who'd once covered classical music as a journalist, Harper got a crucial lead. A legendary pianist named Marcus Reed had vanished entirely from the stage at the height of his fame. She stared at the grainy photo on her computer screen. The man in the picture, though younger, was unmistakably Marcus Reed, the same deep, intense gaze, and the same hands that had just played Chopin with heartbreaking beauty. Harper read on, her heart growing heavier with each line. Marcus Reed, youngest ever first-place winner of the Vienna International Music Competition. Soloist engagements at Carnegie Hall, Royal Albert Hall, and La Scala. Renowned for his flawless technique and extraordinary expressiveness. In 2013, at the pinnacle of his career, Marcus abruptly canceled all performances and disappeared from public life when his dearly beloved wife succumbed to cancer. Harper's throat tightened. Scrolling further. After his wife's death, Marcus abandoned his musical career completely. No explanations, no interviews. He retreated into seclusion to care for his 2-year-old daughter, Luna, born with a critical congenital heart condition. Leaning back in her chair, Harper drew a deep breath. Everything was clear now. Marcus wasn't an ordinary janitor. He was a father who'd sacrificed worldwide acclaim to protect his little girl. A surge of admiration and compassion welled up inside her. The very next day, Harper sought him out, not as a powerful CEO, but as a woman moved by shared sorrow. She entered the main lobby where Marcus worked quietly. He recognized her, but wordlessly continued polishing, deliberately avoiding her eyes. "Marcus," she said softly, her voice filled with genuine warmth. "May we talk?" He paused, then resumed his task in a cool tone. "I don't think there's anything to discuss, Miss Quinn." "I know the truth," Harper persisted gently but firmly. "I know who you were, a legendary pianist, and I know why you gave it all up." Marcus finally looked up, his dark eyes wary and pained. "What you found is history. It means nothing to me now." "No," Harper replied, stepping closer. "That past made you who you are today. I want you to know I deeply admire and respect your choice. It takes immense courage to do what you did." He was silent for a moment, then replied with bitter restraint, "You think you understand me, but you don't. I didn't abandon my career to become a hero or earn admiration. I did it because I had no other choice. Luna is all I have left, and I won't let anything take her away." Harper felt her heart wrench at the depth of his pain. She softened her voice. "I don't mean to intrude on your life, Marcus. I just want you to know you don't have to face everything alone." He snapped, the first real sharpness she'd ever heard in his tone. "Who do you think you are, understanding my life? You live in a perfect world of power and wealth. You can buy anything with money, except the peace I fight for every day to keep Luna alive." Harper recoiled at his intensity. She'd never seen him angry, and it showed just how deep his wounds ran. "I'm sorry if I offended you," she said quietly, earnestness shining in her eyes. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I only wanted to help." "You can't help me," Marcus said coldly, turning away. "Stay out of my and Luna's life. We don't need anyone's pity, especially not yours." Harper watched him go, her chest hollow with rejection. Yet she understood his words sprang from deeper pain than she could imagine. Even so, a new determination took root. No matter how hard he pushed her away, she would find a way to show him he wasn't alone. Because in that moment, Harper knew Marcus Reed was far more than a nameless janitor or a forgotten virtuoso. He was the most remarkable man she'd ever met, and the only person who could truly see the hidden wounds she herself had long kept buried. For that reason alone, Harper vowed she would never give up on him. While Harper still sat motionless in the corner of the lounge, plunged deep in shame and disappointment, the clamor from the auditorium gradually faded away, leaving an almost suffocating silence. She gently wiped the hot tears from her cheeks, then rose slowly, determined to leave the place that had just witnessed her most painful failure. As she walked down the dim backstage corridor, Harper suddenly heard a sound drifting from afar, soft and lyrical, as if soothing someone in the quiet. She stopped in her tracks, eyes wide with astonishment. It was the melody she had just mangled, Chopin's Nocturne in C minor, but now it was played flawlessly, achingly beautiful, with a subtlety and emotional depth she had never heard before. Heart pounding, Harper crept closer, afraid to shatter that fragile moment. Through a narrow gap in the door tucked beside the wings, she saw Marcus Reed seated at a small piano. The faint glow of an old lamp highlighted his strong, expressive features. His fingers glided over the keys with natural grace, as if piano and player were one. His eyes were closed, fully immersed in each note, every phrase a tender confession of sorrow, soothing invisible wounds. Harper stood transfixed by Marcus's extraordinary talent and emotional intensity. In that instant, all her doubts and curiosities crystallized. This man could not be just a janitor. The professionalism and artistry in every note revealed a hidden past, a brilliant career he had fought so hard to bury. When the piece concluded in a cascade of pure, heartfelt resonance, Marcus opened his eyes and gazed at the keys in silence. Harper could no longer hold back. She stepped forward, the slight noise startling him. He looked surprised for a moment, then composed himself. "Miss Quinn," he began. "You play incredible," Harper whispered, voice trembling with emotion. "The piece I just ruined. You performed it perfectly." Marcus regarded her with gentle hesitation. "I only wanted to see how the music could live," he said. "I didn't mean to intrude." "You didn't intrude," Harper replied, her voice steadier now. "I've never heard Chopin's Nocturne played so beautifully." "How can you do it?" Marcus hesitated, then spoke softly. "You played it incompletely because you never truly felt it. Technique is necessary, but the most important thing is letting your heart merge with every note. This nocturne is about loss, hope, and profound pain. You were too focused on pleasing others to hear your own heart." Harper fell silent, watching him intently, his words touching wounds she had long kept hidden. "You also overlooked the silence between the notes," Marcus continued gently. "Those pauses are where the soul of the music lives. They demand respect, not fear. Maybe you're used to controlling everything, but music can't be forced. It must be released and allowed to flow." Harper felt as though he saw right through her. She nodded and murmured, "Thank you, Marcus." He was quiet for a long moment, then rose slowly. "Just the insight of someone who's failed on countless stages," he said. Marcus began to walk away, but Harper refused to let him slip off so easily this time. "Marcus," she called softly, making him pause. "Please, tell me why you hide such extraordinary talent. Why choose to be an invisible janitor?" He turned back, his eyes deep pools of infinite sadness. "Not every gift deserves to be displayed, Miss Quinn. Sometimes it's a painful reminder of what we've lost." With that, Marcus walked away in silence, leaving Harper standing there, more bewildered and curious than ever. The truth she'd glimpsed would not let her rest. She knew he had lived another life, one of brilliance and acclaim, but also of heartache and loss. Harper stood before the piano for a long moment, her resolve hardening. She knew investigating Marcus Reed might lead her into dangerous territory, but the fierce curiosity and emotions he had awakened in her wouldn't let her stop. She decided she would uncover every secret Marcus was determined to keep hidden, because in that moment she understood something profound. His past was the key to unlocking her own. A woman who appeared strong and powerful, yet carried hidden wounds that had never truly healed. The memory of that special musical moment stayed with Harper long after that night. She realized she could never return to her old life, one of loneliness, power, and ambition. The image of Marcus and his story of sacrifice haunted her, urging her to learn more about the simple, private world he guarded so carefully. One weekend afternoon, Harper decided to visit Marcus's apartment in the city's suburbs. The small unit sat quietly in a modest neighborhood, giving no hint that it had once been home to a world-renowned pianist. Standing at the door, Harper felt an inexplicable flutter in her chest as she gently knocked. The door opened almost immediately. Marcus looked surprised and a bit embarrassed to see her. Before he could speak, a clear, youthful voice called from behind him. "Daddy, who is it?" He turned, his tone softer than Harper had ever heard. "Luna, Daddy has a friend I'd like you to meet." From behind, Marcus emerged Luna, a bright, curly-haired 8-year-old with wide, curious eyes. She beamed at Harper as if she'd known her for years. "Hello, miss, I'm Luna," she said cheerfully, her voice as pure as a bell, and Harper couldn't help but smile warmly. "Hello, Luna. I'm Harper. It's so nice to meet you," Harper replied, touched by the child's sweetness. Marcus stepped aside and invited Harper into the apartment. Inside, it was humble but filled with warmth and life. Family photos were carefully arranged on the walls, and a small coffee table held a vase of fresh wildflowers. But what caught Harper's attention most was the old piano in the corner of the living room, softly dusted, its handwritten sheet music neatly stacked on the stand. "This is our home," Marcus said gently, still hesitating as he allowed Harper into his private space. Luna tugged at Harper's hand and led her to the piano with eager eyes. "Miss Harper, do you know how to play?" Harper smiled softly and sat down beside her. "A little bit, but I'm sure nowhere near as well as your dad." Luna's eyes sparkled mischievously. "Daddy's really good, but he hasn't played in a long time. I miss his music." Marcus looked uneasy, his gaze falling on the unfinished compositions. Harper immediately understood. These were pieces Marcus had never had the courage to complete, each one holding sweet and painful memories of his beloved wife. He explained in a low, emotional voice, "These are pieces I wrote for Julia, Luna's mother, but I never had the courage to finish them. It felt like saying a final goodbye I wasn't ready for." Harper looked at him with deep sympathy. Luna lightly pressed a few keys, producing a soft, random melody, then said, "Miss Harper, I'm going to practice piano really hard, so one day I can play these pieces for Daddy. I think Mommy would be so happy." Harper's eyes filled with tears at Luna's innocent sincerity. In that moment, she realized the little girl, despite her hardships, possessed a maturity and strength beyond her years, as if illness and loss had taught her to cherish life more than most. "I'm sure your mother would be so proud," Harper said warmly, brushing Luna's hair back, "and so would your father." Marcus watched the two of them, his heart stirred by the unexpected bond forming between Harper and his daughter. He had always tried to protect Luna from hurt, yet for the first time he felt at peace letting Harper into their little world. That evening, the three of them prepared a simple dinner, laughter filling the kitchen. Luna excitedly told stories about school, friends, and her dream to become a pianist like her dad. In that small kitchen, for the first time in years, Harper felt her heart warmed by a kind of happiness she had never thought possible. After Luna fell asleep, Marcus sat beside Harper in the living room, his eyes both troubled and tender. "Thank you, Harper. I haven't seen Luna this happy in a long time." Harper looked at him fondly. "You don't need to thank me. Actually, I'm the one who should thank you both. I haven't felt real family happiness in ages." Marcus was silent for a moment, looking into her eyes with genuine gratitude and softness. He whispered as if to himself, "Maybe Julia was right. I shouldn't have given up music entirely. I can't forget her, but I can't keep Luna trapped in my pain forever." Harper placed her hand over his, her voice reassuring and encouraging. "You don't have to forget Julia to keep living and loving. I believe she'll always be with you, in every piece you write, in Luna's laughter, and in every beautiful memory you hold dear." Marcus smiled softly, and for the first time in many years, his heart didn't feel lonely. In that moment, he realized Harper had stepped into his and Luna's life with genuine kindness, helping them rediscover hope in life, in love, and in the future. A future they would build together, note by unfinished note. The peaceful moments Harper had just shared with Marcus and Luna were abruptly shattered by a sudden fierce media storm. One morning, As soon as she stepped into the office, Harper felt curious and judgmental stares from every direction. Before she could make sense of it, Jennifer, her trusted assistant, burst in, pale and anxious. "Harper, something's gone wrong. You need to see this right now." Jennifer set her phone on Harper's desk. On the screen was a short video going viral at lightning speed. Harper's blood ran cold as she realized it showed her and Marcus playing piano together in the company lobby the night before. Shot from a hidden angle, it was clear enough. Lyra Records' powerful CEO lost in an emotional duet with a black janitor from her own company. Her heart pounded so hard she could hardly breathe. Within hours, social media and the press exploded with the sensational headlines. Powerful CEO Harper Quinn dating a janitor? Scandal rocks Lyra Records. News outlets dug into the disparity of status and wealth, and, even more toxically, Marcus's race. Cruel comments flooded in, mercilessly attacking Harper and accusing her of exploiting Marcus to polish her image or undermine the company. Marcus, too, was targeted by a wave of vicious, racist slurs. Harper felt as if the ground had opened beneath her. She didn't care about her own reputation, but the thought of Marcus and Luna enduring such cruelty tore at her heart. Before she could react further, Jennifer said, "Richard and Margot have called an emergency board meeting. They're furious, Harper." Harper entered the boardroom under a heavy cloud of dread. At the head of the table sat Richard Quinn, his face cold as stone and eyes burning with anger. Margot Lynn stood beside him, her lips curved in a cruel, triumphant smile. "Sit down, Harper," Richard said, his tone sterner than ever. Harper took her seat, struggling to steady her voice. "I know how disruptive this video has been, but everyone needs to understand it was just a private moment that accidentally went public." "A private moment?" Margot sneered. "Harper, you're the CEO of Lyra Records. Nothing you do is private, especially not with someone in his position. Do you realize how much damage this is doing to the company's image and reputation?" Richard's gaze sharpened. "Harper, I don't care what you do outside work hours, but having this happen in our own lobby and then go public is unacceptable. The board is extremely dissatisfied, and investors are reconsidering their commitments. You've created the biggest scandal in our history." Harper fought back tears but held her ground. "I'm sorry for the disruption this has caused the company, but Marcus doesn't deserve this hate. He did nothing wrong." "The issue isn't Marcus," Margot interjected icily. "The problem is you. You lost your judgment the moment you decided to get involved with him. Think carefully, Harper. Everyone's questioning whether you deserve to remain CEO." Richard nodded in agreement. "Harper, you must issue a clear public statement denying any romantic involvement with that man. You have to make it plain it was a momentary lapse in judgment, and ensure it never happens again. If you refuse, the board will force you to resign." Harper met their eyes, anger and pain rising in her chest. "You want me to lie about how I feel? I've done nothing wrong." "This is not the time for stubbornness," Richard barked. "Either you deny the relationship and save the company's reputation, or you step down as CEO, effective immediately." Margot's triumphant smile widened. "Your choice, Harper. Love or ambition? An anonymous man or the career you fought so hard to build?" Harper's chest tightened as though gripped by an iron hand. She knew Richard and Margot were seizing on this scandal to push her out. But what pained her most was knowing Marcus and Luna were being hurt by the cruelty outside these walls. She couldn't betray Marcus's trust or her own convictions. "I will not lie to protect my own image," Harper said at last, her voice trembling but resolute. If the board wants me gone over this, so be it. But I will never deny what my heart knows to be true." With that, she stood and turned her back on Richard and Margot, leaving them speechless. She had chosen a difficult path, but Harper knew, deep down, she had done the right thing, not for herself, but for Marcus and Luna, and for everything they were building together. The moment the boardroom doors closed behind her, Harper felt as though she'd just stepped into the fiercest battle of her life. The cold, appraising stares of the directors pierced her like sharpened blades the instant she entered. Richard sat at the head of the table, his gaze hard and authoritative but laced with deep disappointment. Margot stood beside him, her eyes gleaming with clumsy triumph. Harper moved to the chair opposite them, drew a deep breath, and sat as calmly as she could. She knew full well the consequences if she refused Richard and Margot's demands. But this time, her heart was made up. Richard spoke in a stern, uncompromising tone. "Harper, I think you've had ample time to reconsider. You will issue a statement denying this absurd romance, correct?" An oppressive silence fell over the room as every eye fixed on Harper. She paused for a few seconds, then looked Richard squarely in the eye and said calmly, "I'm sorry, but I cannot do that." Murmurs of dissent rippled through the boardroom. Richard's eyes blazed, his voice trembling with anger. "Harper, do you realize what you're saying? You're willing to destroy everything we've built over one stupid moment of recklessness?" "It wasn't reckless," Harper replied firmly, her voice steely. "Marcus is a man worthy of respect. I refuse to deny what my heart knows to be true. If I must choose between love and the CEO title, I need no further thought. I choose love." Margot laughed mockingly. "Love? Harper, do you really think you're living in some sentimental romance? This is the real world, where fame and power are what matter." Harper regarded Margot with pity. "Perhaps that's true for you, Margot, but for me, no amount of fame or power will ever matter more than living true to my own heart and conscience." Richard slammed his hand on the table, his face flushed with fury. "You're making a grave mistake, Harper. The board will never tolerate you damaging the company's image any further." "Very well, let the board do what it deems necessary," Harper replied softly, her eyes unwavering. "But I will not abandon Marcus. He's done nothing wrong to deserve these insults." Richard's voice turned icy. "Then I'm forced to ask for your immediate resignation. You will lose everything, Harper. Do you really believe that man is worth what you're about to sacrifice?" Harper stood tall, unafraid and unrepentant. "I may lose the CEO title, I may lose power, but I will preserve what matters most, my integrity and my heart. Marcus deserves that, and I will never regret this choice." Margot curled her lip in a derisive sneer, just loud enough for the room to hear. A fool will always be a fool. Harper met Margot's gaze with bright conviction. "If sincerity and love are foolish in your eyes, then I'm happy to be a fool for life." Tension hung thick in the air. Harper looked around one last time, then spoke clearly and decisively. "If the board cannot accept this truth, then I hereby resign as CEO of Lyra Records, effective immediately." She strode toward the door, each step strong and resolute. As she passed Richard, he hissed, "You're destroying yourself, Harper. You'll regret this." Harper paused for a moment, met his gaze, and replied with firm certainty, "I'll only regret not doing this sooner, Richard. I've lived in others' shadows far too long." She opened the door and left the boardroom behind, the air crackling with silent fury and scorned glances. Yet, as she emerged into the hallway, Harper felt an unexpected lightness. The gentle light of the corridor seemed to beckon her to a completely different future. A future she would choose for herself, unbound by fame or others' expectations. Leaving the company behind, her steps were unburdened. She knew the road ahead would be arduous, but she had never felt more powerful or free. On her way home, Harper thought of Marcus and Luna, her heart brimming with hope and resolve. She understood she wasn't just fighting for love, but for justice and for the values that truly matter in life. Things money and power can never buy. No matter what the future held, Harper believed she had done the right thing. For the first time in many years, she was living true to herself, and that to Harper was her greatest triumph. The moment Harper stepped out of the company, her heart was still racing from the tough decision she'd just made. But the instant her phone rang and Marcus appeared on the screen, a strange dread washed over her. She answered, and Marcus's trembling voice came through, utterly unlike his usual calm. "Harper, Luna, she's critical. I don't know what to do." Harper's heart seemed to stop. She forced herself to speak evenly. "Stay calm, Marcus. I'll be there right away. Where is Luna?" "At the City Central Hospital." His voice broke, panic clear as day. She hailed a ride and sped to the hospital, every second stretching excruciatingly. Arriving, she found Marcus slumped on the floor outside the emergency ward, eyes red and hollow with despair. Harper rushed to him, took his shaking hand and spoke softly. "Marcus, I'm here. What's happening with Luna?" He looked at her, pain etched into every line of his face. "She had a sudden heart failure. The doctors say it's very serious. They're doing everything they can, but they can't promise anything." Her chest tightened at his words. She saw the man who always stood strong now, utterly broken, his eyes filled with hopelessness she'd never before witnessed. The emergency room doors swung open and a doctor emerged, grave-faced. Marcus leapt to his feet, voice shaking. "Doctor, how is Luna?" The doctor sighed heavily, tone solemn. "Your daughter experienced severe heart collapse. We've stabilized her heartbeat, but she's now in a deep coma. Her condition is critical. She needs a top specialist team immediately. Our facility can't handle it." Marcus froze, knees buckling onto the bench, voice choked with anguish. "What? What do I do now?" Harper didn't hesitate. She stepped forward, determination unwavering. "Arrange an immediate airlift to the best hospital. I'll cover every expense. Luna needs the leading specialists at Boston Children's Hospital." The doctor looked startled, then nodded briskly. "If you can arrange it, we'll coordinate and transfer her tonight." Marcus turned to Harper, voice trembling. "Harper, you don't have to." "I'll do anything to save Luna and support you," Harper said firmly, her promise unbreakable. "We'll get through this together. You're not alone anymore." That very night, a medical jet flew Luna to Boston. Harper leveraged every contact and resource she had to ensure a swift transfer, because in moments like these, every second counts. In Boston, a top pediatric cardiology team immediately took charge. As they waited outside the operating room, Marcus sat collapsed, head bowed, shoulders shaking from exhaustion and despair. Harper sat beside him, gently wrapping an arm around his shoulders. Her voice was soft but resolute. "You've been so strong for so long, Marcus. Now let me be strong for you. Luna is a fighter, just like her dad." He lifted his head to look at her, gratitude and guilt mingling in his eyes. "I've let her suffer too much. I wasn't strong enough to protect her." "Marcus," Harper interrupted gently yet firmly, "stop blaming yourself. You're the most devoted father I know. You sacrificed everything for Luna, and she knows that more than anyone." Marcus stared at her as though seeing her clearly for the first time. In his pained eyes a flicker of hope. The spark of new life began to glow. "Harper, I honestly don't know what I'd do without you right now," he whispered. "You don't have to think about that," Harper replied, squeezing his hand. "Right now, let's pray and believe Luna will wake up soon." Marcus nodded and leaned his head on her shoulder. Together they sat in the tense hush outside the operating room. But even in this darkest hour, they found strength in one another. Their bond, unbreakable, would carry them through whatever the future held. The tense days of waiting at Boston Children's Hospital dragged by slowly and felt like an ordeal. Every tick of the clock in the hallway seemed to deepen Marcus's helplessness. Yet, amid that silence, when Marcus felt he had no strength left, Harper was by his side, quietly giving him the strength and peace he'd never known. One late afternoon, as the fading sunlight streamed through the small waiting room window, Harper sat beside Marcus and whispered gently, "I just received an invitation from a major Boston charity. They want to host a special benefit concert for Luna, and they'd like you to perform." Marcus looked up at Harper, his eyes clouded with doubt and worry. I don't know if I can. It's been so long since I stood on a stage." Harper softly placed her hand over his, her gaze warm and sincere. "You can do it. This isn't just a fundraiser for Luna. It's your chance to find yourself again, Marcus. I believe in you, and so does Luna." Marcus stared at her for a long moment, his heart stirred by her unwavering faith. Finally, he nodded ever so slightly, his voice quiet but determined. "I'll try again, for Luna and for you." The day of the concert arrived sooner than Marcus expected. Boston Symphony Hall was bathed in soft light, and hundreds of supporters filled the seats, eager to help Luna. Backstage, Marcus's hands trembled as he stared at the piano keys in front of him. Harper stood beside him, holding his hand firmly, and murmured, "Remember, you're not alone up there, Marcus. Luna and I are with you." Marcus took a deep breath, stepped onto the stage to thunderous applause, bowed gently, and seated himself at the grand piano, facing the lights for the first time in years. The moment his fingers touched the keys, years of pent-up emotion poured forth. He closed his eyes, envisioning Julia's gentle smile and Luna's radiant laughter giving him strength. Then Marcus began to play the most important piece of his life, a melody born of love, sacrifice, and fierce hope. Each note he played was a heartfelt prayer for Luna, carrying every ounce of his devotion as a father fighting to save his daughter. His music was tender, profound, and aching, yet infused with the limitless power of hope, washing over the hall and moving every listener to their core. In the front row, Harper could not hold back tears as she listened. She knew each note told Marcus's story, his losses, his pain, but also his courage and faith in the future. Meanwhile, in a darker corner of the hall, Margot Lynn watched with cold calculation. She was displeased to see Marcus celebrated and Harper hailed for her noble gesture. Margot had hoped to oust Harper from the company. Now she wanted their reputations destroyed. But no matter what schemes Margot contrived, this moment belonged entirely to Marcus. His music rose above jealousy and hate like light dispelling darkness, touching every heart in the audience. As Marcus played the final chord, the hall fell into reverent silence, none daring to break that sacred moment. He lifted his hands from the keys, letting the final resonance echo in the hushed space. At that moment, Harper's phone rang. She slipped backstage to answer. On the other end, the Boston doctors' voices trembled with joy. Miss Quinn, it's unbelievable. Luna has awakened, fully conscious and responding wonderfully. Her heart is miraculously recovering." Harper was speechless with emotion, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. She raced back onto the stage just as Marcus stood to acknowledge the crowd. "Marcus, Luna is awake. She's doing great." Marcus froze for a heartbeat. Then his heart seemed to burst with joy. He swept Harper into his arms, tears freely falling as he spoke without hesitation. "Thank you, Harper. You helped me find the music of my life again." The audience erupted into thunderous applause and cheers, all bearing witness to the miracle unfolding in Marcus and Luna's lives. Far off, Margot stood, fists clenched in anger, knowing she could never break the power of love and sincerity. In that moment, Marcus knew he had rediscovered the light of his life, and this time he would never lose it again. He looked at Harper with eyes full of love and gratitude, ready to step into the future, where love, faith, and music would walk beside them always. After the moving concert and the miraculous news of Luna's recovery, Marcus and Harper immediately returned to the Boston hospital that very night. The moment they stepped into her room and saw Luna sitting up in bed, offering a weak yet radiant smile, Marcus felt his heart come alive again. He rushed to his daughter's side and clasped her tiny, fragile hands in his own. "Daddy, I heard your music," Luna whispered, her voice as light as a breeze, yet crystal clear. "I woke up because of your music. I knew you wouldn't give up." Marcus held her close, tears of joy flowing freely, as if all his pain and worry had been washed away. Harper stood by the door, quietly witnessing this sacred moment, her eyes glistening with emotion and her heart full of profound joy. In the days that followed, Luna's recovery astonished even the doctors. Marcus and Harper stayed by her side, caring for her, talking with her, and playing music for her. Luna's clear, joyful laughter returned day by day, bringing a brilliant light back into Marcus's life, a light that had felt lost in darkness for so long. In those peaceful moments with Luna, Marcus and Harper grew more aware of the deep feelings they held for one another. Yet the scars of their past and the fear of being hurt again made them hesitate to confess their true emotions. One evening, after Luna had fallen asleep in her quiet hospital room, Marcus and Harper stepped into the hallway and stood by a large window overlooking the twinkling lights of Boston. The hall was silent, broken only by their heartbeats and soft breathing. Marcus turned to Harper, his voice gentle, sincere, but tinged with worry. "Harper, you've sacrificed so much for me. You lost your CEO position and so many things you once held dear, all to help me and Luna. I can't begin to express how grateful I am." Harper looked at him with tender yet unwavering eyes. "Marcus, what I lost is nothing compared to what I found. I found myself, a true purpose in life, and most importantly, I found you and Luna. Those are the things that truly matter to me." Marcus squeezed her hand, feeling the warmth and honesty in her touch. His heart pounded as he spoke, voice trembling with emotion. "I thought my heart died with Julia. But when you came into my life, Harper, you brought it back to life. I can't stay silent any longer. I love you, Harper. I've loved you for a long time." Harper gazed into his eyes, happy tears streaming down her cheeks, her voice soft yet powerful. "I love you too, Marcus. I never imagined I would find someone like you, someone so brave, so selfless, and so deeply loving. You helped me realize that true fulfillment in life isn't power or fame, but living authentically and being loved." Marcus held her close, relief, happiness, and peace washing over him. In his arms, Harper felt she'd finally found the home she'd always longed for, a real family where she could be herself without fear of social judgment or expectation. But their happiness wasn't easily accepted by everyone. Margot Lynn, still harboring resentment and envy, refused to abandon her schemes to destroy Harper and Marcus. She spread rumors, stoked public outrage, and used every means to turn people against their relationship. Marcus and Harper no longer cared about outside judgment or gossip. They knew they'd found what truly mattered in each other. Together, they decided to build a completely new life. Far from the glittering but pressurized city stage, returning to a peaceful suburban neighborhood where they could use music to heal souls and help others. They opened a small music center. Marcus taught piano, and Harper led vocal lessons for underprivileged children. Each day in their new home was filled with piano melodies and Luna's innocent laughter. They realized this was the life they'd always dreamed of. A simple life, rich with love and purpose. One evening, after Luna had fallen asleep, Marcus and Harper sat side by the old piano in their small living room. Marcus gently played a tender piece, each note recounting the journey they'd shared. Harper rested her head on his shoulder, smiling contentedly. "I can't believe I've found this kind of happiness," she whispered. Marcus gently squeezed her hand, his voice a soft murmur in her ear. "I once thought life was nothing but loss and sorrow, but now I understand that everything happens for a reason. Without those hardships, we might never have found each other." Harper looked up at him, her eyes shining with joy and trust. "Marcus, from now on, we'll walk through every challenge together, and we'll never be alone again." Marcus smiled, his gaze warm and full of love as he looked into her eyes. "And I promise, our music will always play on, dispelling darkness and bringing light and hope not only to us but to everyone around us." They shared a gentle, heartfelt kiss, marking the beginning of a beautiful new chapter in their lives, one where love, faith, and music would forever walk hand in hand, no matter what society or prejudice might bring. Time passed quietly, weaving years of peace and purpose into Marcus and Harper's lives. From the first gentle notes that echoed in their little suburban home, those melodies have now spread across the country, touching thousands of hearts. Once Luna had fully recovered, Marcus and Harper founded a charity called Melody of Hope. Its mission was simple yet profound: harness the power of music to heal and comfort the souls of children facing terminal illness, helping them find joy and hope amid their struggles. Melody of Hope began as a humble community center, but through the love and sincerity of Marcus, Harper, and Luna, it quickly grew, drawing enthusiastic support from all quarters. Their story, a beautiful love forged through trials, became an endless wellspring of inspiration, helping many to shatter the rigid social prejudices they'd long accepted. Yet Margot Lynn's bitter envy remained, and she relentlessly spread false rumors to undermine Melody of Hope's reputation, trying to sow doubt about their true motives. Marcus and Harper paid little heed to her schemes. They focused only on what truly mattered, bringing light and hope to those children, sharing healing music with everyone who needed it most. Meanwhile, Luna blossomed into a healthy, bright young woman with remarkable musical talent, just like her parents. Her deep passion and natural gift quickly marked her as a rising piano star. She inherited her father's extraordinary skill and her mother's boundless warmth and compassion. At 16, Luna gave her own debut concert to benefit Melody of Hope. Under the sparkling lights of the stage, she performed her original composition, Heartbeat of Life, a piece about fighting illness, conquering adversity, and being reborn. Every note told her story, moving the audience to tears and reminding them of music's miraculous power and the strength of faith. Backstage, Marcus and Harper stood hand in hand, tears of pride in their eyes as they watched their daughter grow into a confident, compassionate artist. They realized it was their unwavering love and fierce belief that had lifted Luna from despair into the light of life. In the years that followed, Marcus and Harper toured small towns and community centers nationwide, performing with no thought of fame or fortune. For them, music had become a gift, a sacred mission to heal hearts, spread love, and connect people. Wherever they went, their music left a lasting mark, penetrating listeners' souls like a gentle stream, washing away prejudice, doubt, and long-held pain. They didn't just perform. They listened, shared, and helped strangers, bringing new hope and meaning to those who needed it most. Melody of Hope flourished, spreading its humanistic values ever further. Margot Lynn, after bitter failures to derail Harper and Marcus, finally gave up, realizing that love and sincerity could never be conquered by lies and hatred. Decades later, with hair now streaked with silver, Marcus and Harper still performed on their small, cozy charity stage, always with Luna, now a celebrated pianist inspiring millions worldwide. Their little family often gathered around the old piano, playing together and sharing stories of love, hope, and unwavering belief in life. One golden afternoon, as they sat together on their porch bench, Marcus smiled gently at the sunset, his eyes calm and full of joy. He took Harper's hand and whispered, "You know, Harper, I once thought my life would remain in darkness forever. But you, Luna, and music brought me back. Through you, I've learned that the losses and wounds of the past were preparing me for something more beautiful and meaningful." Harper rested her head on his shoulder and smiled softly. "And because of you, I learned that love and sincerity are stronger than any prejudice or storm. Our music is more than melodies. It's the pulse of our hearts, the very essence of life." Marcus looked deeply into Harper's eyes, emotion flooding his gentle expression. "I hope that after all this, what we leave behind in the world is love, hope, and beautiful echoes that never fade from the hearts of those who hear them." Harper squeezed his hand, her heart at peace. "And I believe they will echo on forever, like an endless song, in all of our hearts." And so, in the warm sunset glow, Marcus and Harper sat together, quietly listening to the music of their lives, a song written in love, courage, sacrifice, and fierce hope, leaving behind a deep, beautiful, everlasting resonance in every heart touched by their story. The tale of Marcus, Harper, and Luna shows us that music and love hold miraculous power. They transcend prejudice, heal the deepest wounds of the soul, and leave echoes that never vanish. Sometimes a single tender melody is enough to change a life, helping us rediscover real hope and the true meaning of living. What about you? Have you ever experienced a moment when music truly transformed your life? Share your story in the comments below. If you loved this heartfelt tale, please like, share this video with loved ones, and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring stories. Thank you for listening, and see you next time.